Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Desiree,
And I'm Sarah.
and welcome to our new podcast called Here's Your Prescription.
I spent my life being next in line, hoping somebody's gonna listen. A story untold's never gonna unfold, so I'm gonna make the best of mine. Here's your prescription.
So, the idea for this podcast came to me randomly one day. I have always had, I don't know, a passion for, people, I guess you would say. So I wanted to do something where I could talk about people and all things people, like what makes them human, I guess. Um, Being someone who struggles with like mental health, mental illness type stuff, and who's had traumatic experiences in my life, thought it would be a cool thing to do. And I wanted to bring Sarah along for the ride with me, I guess, because I felt like she understands not only me, but like the topics that I'm interested in talking about more than anyone. Um, so thank you for saying yes to doing this.
Of course. If it's This is actually really interesting, and I really enjoyed what you proposed to me, especially when it comes to helping others. If this helps anyone out by not feeling alone, I'm all for it because I like to help I like helping others pretty much.
Yeah, me too. And that was the whole that's like the number one reason I wanted to do this. Not only to talk about things that I like truly am passionate about and have an interest in, but I know that these kind of topics, like the stuff that I do want to talk about or like real life stuff, aren't discussed as often as they should be. And, if one person could listen to this and like relate or understand or you know, I guess use this as like a safe space to like escape, that's like all that matters to me, honestly. Um
Right.
but yeah, so this podcast, I guess, is like a general, it's like everything. I want it to be everything. There was not going to be one specific topic or one thing that we were going to discuss. It's just pretty much life, I guess. Um, Everything that life entails. So I'm really excited to like start getting into that. Um, Honestly, I feel like maybe we should both kind of like introduce ourselves and like the things that we struggle with. Like, let's open up already to like, I don't know, allow people to like get to know us a little bit on a deeper level.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So I actually want to ask you, I'll have you start. Explain yourself a little bit. If you have any diagnoses that you have, you could talk about those. How does that affect you on a day to day level? How does it affect other people in your life? Things like that.
Well, let's start off with that. So I've actually I've been diagnosed with severe depression and severe anxiety as well as PTSD. I had a very traumatic childhood. And so overall I'm high functioning. So like for example, I go to work, I go to school, I'm able to function, be around the kids in that aspect. However, um, there are things that it affects me. So, for example, I do tend to sleep a lot lately because I don't have the energy. Once I'm done with like school and work, I just want to nap. Uh, or for example, if I go out, I like after an hour, I just want to sleep because I'm too tired, I'm too overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I'm trying to get over. Obviously, I am going to therapy, I have a psychiatrist, I'm taking medication. I'm trying to get better and heal. But there's also that severe anxiety that I have, which like prevents me from going out. It wasn't as bad before, but after the pandemic, it seems like it got worse. So when I try to go out, hang out with friends, my anxiety takes over, and most of the time I end up canceling, which
Mm-hmm.
is something that I used to not do. I used to be able to push through that, but now I do catch myself canceling a lot more. I always just say that I don't feel well, which is true. I don't feel well. My anxiety fucking takes over, and it makes me feel physically sick, which somebody that has never experienced anxiety doesn't know how that feels.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, great. It's just, it sucks for me. Um, and in terms of my PTSD, I don't like when it happens, but it does happen, where you get your flashbacks, and it can simply be something like hearing something, seeing something, or smelling something, and it triggers it. And um, I don't like having the flashbacks because it brings me back to when I was a child. Um, and it gives me that fear again. So it's really hard, especially trying to play it off when you're around like your kids. Because in
Yeah.
front of my kids, I try to be the most positive, good mom, you know, don't cry, you're strong, brave, all that good stuff. But it's very hard. It's very hard. It takes a toll. And so by the time that, like everything is done and over with, let's say my kids are in bed, that's when I usually like break down.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's hard, and it's an everyday struggle, but one day at a time, right?
exactly.
What about you, Desi?
Well, um, well, thank you for sharing that. I also have been diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety disorder, um, years ago. So those are things that I've been dealing with for quite a long time. Recently, though, um, what about 2.5, 3 months ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Um, I'm not manic. I don't have that version of bipolar, but I do have it. Um, so I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I would say like 6 or 7 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, that was awful. The way that I like was, obviously you don't know what's wrong with you until you go to talk to someone, and then they kind of explain everything to you. Um,
Right.
so I didn't know how to cope with it. So when I was in therapy I went to therapy for like a year and a half, 2 years. I was on antidepressants and anxiety medication at the time, which did help a lot. Um, but it affected me a lot. I mean, if anyone that suffers from depression, any form of it, whether it's minor or severe, you do know how it can affect you and affect your life. And, never wanting to do anything, you can't keep things, clean, you don't have motivation, you're sad all the time, anger sometimes because of it, and then anxiety again, not wanting to go out. I couldn't stand being around a lot of people because it would freak me out. I would have panic attacks like every day. Um, but with therapy at that time, I learned to cope with it, which was amazing. I was doing very well for a long time. The
Hmm.
last like 5 years, until honestly, I would say the pandemic that happened in 2020. Um, Something after that triggered something in me. Um, and for the last year and a half, I've been struggling with uncontrollable anger that I didn't know where it was coming from. Um, it was affecting everyone. My fiance at the time, my family, my friends. I was just not a pleasant person to be around. I was very angry all the time. Any little thing, I would snap. It wasn't good. And one day, just in January, so 5 months ago, my wife had a conversation with me and she's like, this is what's going on. You need to get this, like, you need to figure this out. Because not only is it affecting you personally, but it's affecting me and everyone else. And I finally, after a year and a half, was able to take a step back and see that I was the problem. I am the problem. And I went to see a psychiatrist and I talked to her, explained everything to her, and she came up with the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, which made a lot of sense after doing my own research, honestly. So I do take everyday medication for that, which actually has been very nice. So, it's kind of like a blessing. Like, I hate that all of that stuff happened, but, like, I'm glad I was able to figure it out, and I'm on the medication now, which is good. I feel so much better. I'm more calm, level-headed, like, open-minded, and, like, I've been doing things that are so out of my comfort zone, like, out of my normal. Like, I'm an introvert through and through, but lately, over the last couple months, I've had motivation again. So I was working out. I've been, trying to lose weight. I'm, like, going out and doing things on the weekend. I'm not just staying home, like, in my bubble, which is, it's crazy. Like, I've taken a step back and, like, looked at myself and saw how I was for a long time. And I honestly feel like I'm a completely different person now after getting this diagnosis. It was really scary at first because I do have, history of severe mental illness in my family, and seeing, like, how it affected them personally and, like, everyone else. It was really scary to think about, but I feel a lot better knowing, and I guess I'm, like, proud of myself for trying to get on the right track and, like, now I'm not saying I'm cured. It's not, as severe as it is for me, it's not curable. So, but, it's helping, and I'm learning new coping mechanisms to, like, not get angry and, like, lash out when I shouldn't. One day at a time, it really is, just one foot in front of the other. But yeah, I thought it was depression this whole time, but after talking to the psychiatrist, and I'm in therapy again now, that's not what it is. The slight mania and, like, the dips and mood swings and stuff like that, it's definitely not just that. It's a factor in it, big time, but it's not. And so that was kind of, I guess, eye-opening, because, like, I thought I knew depression,
Right.
I've had it my whole life. I've been on medication for it. I've been to therapy for it. I thought I knew it. And then, so I just thought that it is what it is. Like, oh, I'm having another depressive episode. Like, I'm used to this. Like, this is just my life. When that's actually not the reason. Like, that's not what it was,
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I mean, mental illness, it affects everyone, not just you. Like,
Right.
like, you try so hard to, like, keep it in, and I think that's what makes it worse. It's like trying to mask it, and, like, everyone sees through you, especially people that are really close to you. Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't live with my mother anymore. I actually didn't see her for quite a while because I was living in a different state, and even she knew. It's like,
Well,
you don't think people are gonna, like, notice these things, but
Right.
apparently it was really bad, and so I mean, I didn't know. I thought I was just mad all the time. Like, that's just me. I just have anger problems, which isn't healthy to begin with. That's a problem too.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's crazy, you just, especially with, like, depression and anxiety, I feel like I can relate to that more than a lot of people. But it's just, I don't know, it's just crazy. Like, it really truly felt like one day it just turned 180 and all of a sudden I was dealing with this. Like,
Yeah.
I know that these things come along. They say that, like, it's triggering events that cause this stuff to come out, right?
Right.
So, I mean, we don't have to get.
I mean, the pandemic itself was triggering all the shit that was happening.
Yeah. So
and
like you said, I could completely understand why that would cause the anxiety to be so much worse than it already was. I mean,
Right.
the chaos that was ensuing during at least the first like year of that was just insane. Like, I think I saw, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not like stating facts here, but I think I saw something that stated that like diagnosis of anxiety and depression were like skyrocketing during that amount of time.
Yeah, I think I saw that too.
You know, which is, I mean, I know that mental health and stuff like that is already a problem in this country, but like that, I mean, it just makes sense. You know, people are locked up. They have to, people are locked up um, to themselves. They just have to be
Yeah.
in themselves. And like that's just traumatic in general. Like just having to like sit with yourself and like, you know,
Well, not only that, what about like people that had spouses that they never saw because of work and
mm-hmm.
now they're like together all the time and then they realize like, oh my God, I can't relate to you
Yeah, I
until
did.
that like
Mm,
messes with them, you know?
I did see that too, that divorce rates went up in the last couple years because of that. A lot of
Yeah.
relationships ended because of that. Um, that's crazy. She was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife moved in with me. So the pandemic started in March, and she moved in with me in May of
Oh, wow.
2020. And so technically, kind of, we spent the entire lockdown together. It was good for us, but it's unfortunate that some people didn't get to have that same experience, you know. But
Hmm.
I mean, when you're locked up in a house and you can't go anywhere, you get to see people's like true selves, and I mean that can change things really quick, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting to think about. Like I was saying, like triggering events. I I think I was able to pinpoint the triggering event that caused the bipolar. I mean, I think it's
Uh-huh.
always been in me, but like there's something that has to like make it come out, you know?
Uh-huh.
But like we don't have to get into it specifically if you know it's not something that you or I are comfortable enough with, but it's just interesting to think about like what could have possibly happened even if it was later years. Like you said, for your anxiety getting worse, the pandemic was one. Um
Hmm.
like what happens, you know, like because like I said, it just feels like it was a 180 all of a sudden it was there, you know. It's like because when you're young you don't think about it like, oh, that's what
Right.
this is, I'm depressed, you know. um I've had things happen in my life that I can then look back on and like realize like, oh, that was the trigger event, you know.
Hmm.
Can you say the same? Like you can, not when you were younger obviously, but as an adult now and looking back, could you say like for sure like this is when I started to notice that this is what happened to cause that? Like is that something that you
Yeah.
think about?
Yeah. I definitely know what happened and what triggered um for me to be this way at this time. I don't want to get too into it at the moment, but yeah, I know exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's just so I started to like kind of deal with like the depression and stuff in high school. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just like teenage angst, you know? Like I was
Mhm.
just angry at the world for some reason. But yeah, like looking back on it, it's like it's crazy to see like okay, that's exactly what happened. And then I started to feel, you know, these feelings that I didn't know what they were at the time. I would like to get into that like obviously not now, but like kind of break things down at a later time. I don't know, I just find it so fascinating, you know, like the way that things work, like how everything works. Like I'll just explain really quick. Recently, with the whole bipolar thing, um it was mid 2021 that we made a move to a different state, and it wasn't until just recently a couple months ago that I realized that that was the event that triggered all of this stuff. um it's like I didn't think about it at the time, you know. Oh, I just moved to a different state, but like it caused like a downward spiral of problems. you know? Um, I don't know. It's fascinating to me.
Well, just moving in general is very, it takes a toll on you.
Oh, yeah.
So, you moving to a different state is rough, especially when it's like a culture shock, too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm pretty sure that you went from where you were to where you went, it's a whole different thing. So I definitely understand why it was hard for you.
Yeah, we moved to, so I'll just say, I was living in Las Vegas for a couple years. And that life, if you ever been to Vegas, you know exactly how that life can be. Um, and then we moved to a quiet college town in the tip top of, I'll just say, Utah. Um, Secluded, very secluded. It was a 2.5 hour drive through a valley to like get to the city. There was not that many people. I didn't know anyone. I was working from home, and so I was stuck in the house literally all day. I never left the house unless it was to like get food or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was just the two of us in a place pretty much we didn't know with no one we knew. Um, and I can honestly pinpoint now, after it being what, almost 2 years, that that was the reason that all of this started. And it's like, it just sounded so stupid. Like, no, that can't be it. Like, I don't think that's the case. But like sitting down and like looking at it and like stepping back, it's like that's absolutely what it was. I mean, that's just a little bit of like us and like kind of how we work and stuff. Like we said, we'll get more into it like later on, as we start to roll with this, but I wanted to give the option for like open communication between not only you and I, Sarah, but with like the audience as well. Um,
Right.
I think that these topics just in general are very important for not
Mm-hmm.
only people to talk about but to hear, like, oh, I'm not the only one dealing with this.
Right.
Like, you come across some of them, but there's not a lot of like things out there where you can just like listen to like a real person just talk about their experiences and like relate or like understand that, yeah, I'm not the only one that goes through this, and not to feel so lonely. um so I wanted to kind of open the line of communication for literally anyone listening, if you'd like to share your experiences, if you relate to anything, if you want to talk about anything, if you want us to talk about certain topics or things like that, please comment below. You can DM us on Instagram as well. Um, or we actually have an email address for the podcast too. So our Instagram handle is Here's Your Prescription Podcast. Um, the email is the same. Here's your prescription at gmail.com. I would love to like share people's experiences and stuff like that. Everything will remain anonymous. There will be no names said, but if you feel like you don't have anywhere else to like talk about stuff and you want to like, you know, kind of vent in a way, like I want that to be like an option for anyone. So,
We do have to say, a friendly reminder, we're not doctors, we're
oh
not giving
yes.
medical advice. We're
Absolutely.
literally just talking about our own experiences, our own opinions that may not be right or may not be wrong.
Mhm.
But it's all just pretty much venting, ranting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a licensed therapist or anything like that, so please take what anything that I say or we say with a grain of salt. Um, but yeah, so I'm really excited to get into this. Um,
I am too. I hope that, we're able to reach someone that feels that they're alone, but
yeah,
we're here.
and like I said, if this podcast could help one person through the whole thing, then that's like good enough for me. You know.
Hmm.
Um, so before we end, I wanted to do kind of like an icebreaker kind of question where we like end the episode on a question. Again, it can be open to the audience as well to answer, but Sarah, pick a number between 37 and 56. Random.
Oh, wow.
I know.
37 to 56. Let's go with 44.
44. All right, this is a random one. When, if ever, is it okay to break the law?
Oh my goodness. Um, ooh. Uh, wow. I would say, um, oh my goodness. That this is really hard.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a strange question, you know.
when is it okay? I'm just gonna say if you're in a car and like someone's badly injured, it's okay to break the law by speeding to get them to a hospital.
Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Like, imagine being in a situation like you're getting pulled over. Like, you don't stop, right? You just keep going.
I mean, I would assume so because let's say that person's bleeding to death,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Hmm. Um, that's a really good answer. I feel like I
it
want
hurts
to.
some, huh?
It's really hard. I feel like I want to say the same thing. Or if like someone, honestly, if someone you love or someone you know is like in danger and the only way you can like help them out is by breaking the law, whatever that may be, I think that should be acceptable as well. Um,
Uh-huh.
I won't go into specifics, but yeah, I'll just leave that there.
Remember, don't condone any kind of behavior.
Don't break the law if you don't have to. All right. Well, thank you for listening. I hope that you will, stick with us as we start to get into this. But we do have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. This will be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So if you're interested in following us on any of those, I will leave the links in the description below. Um, but yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.